So with Riftbound coming out in only 3 days, this is going to be really interesting because we have release events where you are going to get one of 3 structure decks and 2 booster packs to be able to upgrade your deck. Well, a lot of people are going to be new at the game, so what cards do you keep, what cards do you take out, and what cards are you hoping to hit as you draft? All of that and more starting right now. So yeah, that's going to be the most difficult thing. A lot of people at our local game stores and in our communities are going to be brand new to the game. And especially when we're testing out this game and probably even learning it for the first time at said event, it can be a little bit difficult on what you need to do and how you need to actually draft successfully, and even what do these champions and legends decks even do. It can be a little overwhelming for sure, especially just with the different battlefields, memorizing and learning what all the triggers are and things of that nature. You're already going to be going in probably a little bit overwhelmed, but hopefully we are going to be helping to make your draft a little bit easier. We're going to be going into the deck list, what you are going to be getting out of the deck, and then also what cards you're going to be hoping to potentially hit, and also on top of that, which cards, more importantly, you're probably going to want to take out. That can be some of the more difficult things. It's like, yes, I got these cards, I know which ones just by reading them probably fit in the deck a little bit better, but sometimes it's a hard question on what do you actually take out. That was something that was really difficult for the Lee Sin deck in particular. I actually even had a little bit of a hard time figuring out what could potentially be the best avenue of taking cards out. And so we're going to be diving into all 3 of the champions and to help give you the best guide to have the best success when you have your opening night. It's going to be exciting. I'm really pumped for this. Now, first and foremost, of course, we do have a couple of things. Drafting is, of course, definitely up to chance and should not be forgotten about that. What I mean by that is you're going to be drafting to your color in particular, and so it's very much up to chance. Yes, you are still going to be getting 28 cards. That's awesome. That should help. But some people, of course, are going to be getting better cards, better options for them. It's the luck of the draw. And so hopefully you are able to see some of these. We are going to be looking at a lot of commons and a lot of like the extremely rare cards. They're going to be wishful thinking, but I'm not going to tell you to necessarily expect to have them or to even necessarily be able to build them in. But if you have them, awesome. Let's go ahead and add them in. Things like Thousand Tail Watcher, Kaisa, even Darius, and things of that nature are going to be cards that really help you out with making your deck all the more stronger. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. So now, first and foremost, of course, the first deck is going to be Viktor. Now, this is the difficult part about Viktor and the thing that you need to know. They put the wrong champion into it. I get why they did. And the theme of this whole deck is actually incredibly good. You know, and the fact of that when you're playing cards on your opponent's turn, Viktor will then go ahead and create 1 might units, which is very helpful. That's awesome. And so you have a lot of hidden cards and things of that nature to be able to activate on your opponent's turns. So you can then go ahead and use Viktor's ability, be able to draw cards, and continue to fill your hand. And it's actually a pretty good deck. I really like what it is able to do and how it is able to work. The hard part is, though, the bread and butter of what Viktor is able to do is making tokens. And if you're taking a look at this deck list right here, it's not necessarily there. Yes, you have the drummer. That's pretty nice, sure. And you have Viktor's legend ability. But outside of that, you don't necessarily have a whole lot of token making and whatnot, which is really interesting when you are running 3 of Cruel Patron. The battlefields are also actually pretty good as well that you are going to be getting out of this. First and foremost, Trifarian War Camp is definitely going to be the one that you want to play probably on game number 1. Well, at least, yeah, game number 1, because you're hoping to at least create a lot of units, a lot of tokens to be able to buff your units up. That's going to be the big thing. I'm going to have a super wide board. They might sure be of 1 might units, but when I go ahead and attack in, their might goes ahead and multiplies because of the war camps and things of that nature. So very interesting idea here. And of course, you're going to be getting also 6 and 6 of runes, but you got some interesting stuff. You know, you got Mushroom Pouch, which is decent. Orb of Regret, which just isn't very good at all. Smokescreen is such a good card. Love that you get 2 of those. Stupefy also really good. Also card draw for a cost of 1 while also minusing 1. and also Hidden Blade, which is going to be very helpful for you as well. The big thing with Hidden Blade is that if you ever do end up actually getting low on card draw, you can go ahead and target one of your 1 might minions that you have already created, and just go ahead and use Hidden Blade on it. And so in so doing, you are going to be killing one of your, worthless units potentially, to be able to draw 2 cards. And so that's something that a lot of things that can help deter your opponent is you can go ahead and take a battlefield, play Hidden Blade, hidden, of course, and then being able to, on your turn, when they're just going to overwhelm, they think that you are going to necessarily target their unit, and you very well could, but at the same time, you can also target your own unit and still be able to draw the 2 cards. So that can be a pretty fun combo. Now, of course, a lot of this also has to do with like vision and things of that nature, being able to look at the cards in your deck, putting them on the bottom if you so choose, and, a couple of weird things. And so with that being said, the cards that you are potentially going to be wanting to pull a little bit more, wishful thinking, of course, would be another Grand Stratagem or Thousand Tail Watcher in that. Smoke Screen would still be really good. You do get 2 of them. A third would always really help. It's a pretty cheap card, all in all, and it's a common. This can really help, especially when you're going against Lee Sin, who has a lot of higher up cost units. You're going to be going against Lee Sin, which is a 6 might unit. Others that are like 8, 9, or 10 might units. And so to be able to get them down to a much more manageable level is very helpful. Not only that, but Smokescreen is also a reaction, which can really help surprise your opponent where they might, pass priority or things of that nature. You can go ahead and play as a reaction and just really surprise your opponent and what they're able to do, and see what is able to happen. With that being said, Lecturing Yordle as well, just a really good card. It's a 3-drop. You can play it when you go second. Though Viktor has really one of the best turn 2s. When you have your 3 runes out, you can go ahead and play a 2 might unit or a 2 cost unit, and then pay 1 additional to use the legend ability to then be able to create a 1 might unit as well, so that the next turn you could potentially take both battlefields. Really good. Lecturing Yordle still, though, is very good as well, because as soon as he goes out, you immediately replace him by drawing a card. The 2 might, yes, that kind of sucks, but also for a 3 cost, you're not necessarily expecting much, and that's just very helpful. Now, Faithful Manufacturer and Vanguard Captain are going to be hand in hand. Again, you're just trying to get into the end game. Your goal as the Viktor player, let's go ahead and get to 6 points. Then let's try to get Grand Stratagem out onto the field so that I can give +5 to all my units and then Overwhelm to get those final 2 points. And so with helping with you doing that is going to be Faithful Manufacturer and Vanguard Captain. Those are going to be very great at getting you a lot of units very quickly. And so it's very nice to be able to get that going and to potentially create a very wide board where otherwise you might not be able to. In testing these structured decks on Tabletop Simulator, this deck is good in the early game, okay in the mid game, and not great at the late game. And so you really got to hope that you hit the ground running very quickly early on, because otherwise you are going to be struggling. Now, we're trying to make sure that we are able to at least keep our units out by any means necessary, which is why if you happen to hit Shen, now, of course, he's going to be a little bit more on the rare side. He is really good because you can basically play him as a reaction. He is essentially Flash from Magic the Gathering. And so you are able to then just play him out. He has shield +2 and all that as well. So you can go ahead and he's just really good at adding +5 all of a sudden. And not a lot of people can necessarily get around that. And you literally only have to pay 3 to do so. So if you leave 3 up and, you can get that extra point on the battlefield, it can make a really big difference. And so just a very helpful card if you end up pulling that. If not, Sprite Mother is going to be also another really great card to be able to have in your deck. Again, the name of the game for Viktor, at least, is let's get as many points early on so we can struggle a lot less at the end game. Sprite Mother is great for doing that, being able to create a ready to 3 might sprite. You do need to be careful, of course. If you end up playing Sprite Mother into a occupied battlefield that you own, the sprite does not have ganking and will still come in ready. And essentially, you're either going to be keeping it in the battlefield, which is also a viable strategy, or sending it back to base. But the main point about Sprite Mother is usually the other battlefield is going to be wide open. You go ahead and pay 4, recycle 1. You get a 3 might readied Sprite, and then you have the Mother back in base. You send the Sprite in, you get the point, and it's pretty dang awesome. So a lot of really good help right there on getting things moving. Next, of course, is going to be Imperial Decree. This is going to be the thing that really shuts down the big units. And again, a little bit more rare, not nearly as rare as, what you would see with Thousand Tail Watch or Shin, for example. But still, up there. You might be able to pull one. And if you do, definitely great. Something to keep in mind with that. Now, the big reason for that, of course, is that Imperial Decree specifically says that any damage that you deal is enough to kill units. Cool. So if you see all of a sudden that the Lee Sin that you are going against has a really big unit and you have no idea how to get around it, well, Imperial Decree, you go ahead and you send one of your 1 might units. It deals 1 damage. Their unit deals 10 to your 1 might unit, and both die. It's pretty great. And so this is going to be very helpful. Yes, it does suck that you do have to recycle 2. That power cost is a little bit steep, but for the ability, it can get you out of jail. If you really find yourself getting into a lot of trouble, this can be very helpful on getting things done so that you are able to then continue to press forward and try to get to those 8 points. It can be so difficult sometimes with Viktor to see that final point, especially when you only have 1 grand stratagem in your deck. And Viktor isn't necessarily the highest draw rate as well, so it can be a little difficult. Likewise, Riptide Rex can be very good. It's not necessarily like a great card in this current meta. You could see him in Teemo and a few other decks maybe, but he kind of fell to the wayside a little bit as we continued to develop develop these decks in the meta before the game was released. And he's kind of fallen to the wayside, just maybe a little bit too slow. Also easy to counter, especially against Kai'Sa. You play a Falling Star, you'll go ahead and do it. And sometimes it's a dead card where it doesn't necessarily feel like you have any targets, so he just sits in your hand and kind of goes to the wayside. So little difficult there, but still has a really great ability, and that is going to be dealing 6 damage to a unit. Now, for those of you who might not know, when you go ahead and deal 6 damage by playing a unit or a spell, that does not heal on a unit in a battlefield until after a showdown has occurred or the end of turn is stated. At that point, then both all damage will be healed as a whole, and you'd be able to go into your next turn. So if you go ahead and play a Riptide Rex, you'll be able to deal 6 damage to something. Say it had like 8 might in that case. Cool, that's awesome. Then you can go ahead and send in one of your 2 might units instead, and that will do the final 2 damage needed to then be able to get you good to go and clearing that battlefield. You can just send another 1 might unit to be able to get things moving. Very helpful. With that also, Grand Stratagem, if you pull another one, you just need to put it in. I wouldn't recommend 3. 2 is, though, very good. If you do end up pulling 2 by some miracle, go ahead and put them both in. That's going to be very helpful in the sense of it is your end game, and also even like another get out of jail free card in the sense of if they just really lock down the battlefields and you have 5 units in your base, all of them just get +5. That's mayhem. And that's definitely something that can really shut down your opponent, especially clearing out their battlefields. They might not necessarily have a lot back in their base. And also, card draw is kind of a struggle here unless you're playing Jinx. Yes, Lee Sin does have some card draw, but not nearly as much as Jinx because of the legend ability. And so you got to be a little bit careful about that. Thousand Tail Watcher, again, very wishful thinking on you being able to take that. Probably not going to necessarily happen. And so, yeah, it's going to be good. If you happen to pull it, you might not, though, and don't count on it just because of the rarity. There's, of course, definitely going to be other cards that can very well fit your playstyle and your, what you're aiming for as a deck. Again, this is going to be very different depending on what you pull. This is wishful thinking, but again, tokens going as wide as you can, as fast as you can make a major difference, especially where decks aren't necessarily able to move nearly as fast. Lee Sin really struggles in the early game. He has a couple of units, sure, but he doesn't necessarily really start getting rolling until you see him at 6, 7, 8 runes, especially at the 8 and up runes. He also doesn't necessarily have a whole lot that he's going to be recycling either, and so he has the ability to get there pretty quick. Well, if you end up going first, awesome. That's great. Let's go ahead and try to get as many points as we can, because as soon as they start getting those big units out, you can really struggle. Yes, you have things, you know, like Call of the Week, which can be very helpful, especially when they end up only playing maybe 1, maybe 2 units a turn. You can strategize on how you go ahead and get that kind of stuff taken care of. You do have to be careful about Lee Sin, though. He could potentially be drawing into Defies, which will go ahead and counter any spell that costs 4 or less and 1 power or less. So you got to be a little bit careful about that, especially because luckily, like, Grand Stratagem won't be countered, nor can Imperial Decree, because it has a 2 power cost. So you just got to be a little bit strategic about how you play around all of that. But again, speed is the game. Now, of course, Viktor, he's good for what you're trying to get done. If you happen to pull the other one, I would recommend playing the other one. Again, wishful thinking on that. It is a pretty rare card, but if not, keep him in. Now, Orb of Regret, it's not great. Giving a unit -1 to a minimum of 1, not great. It's only costs 1. That's awesome, fine. But feel free to take it out. Now, this is going to be interesting. Mushroom Pouch. At the beginning, or at the start of your beginning phase, if you control a face down card at a battlefield, draw 1. Now, this isn't going to be necessarily one that you would want to take out if you really want to go heavy into the playing face down hidden cards. If you happen to pull out some Teemos and things of that nature in your packs as well, and you want to just go full on into the hidden stuff, then you will want to prioritize getting Viktor out come turn 2 or things like that, and just start trying to take battlefields while taking Viktor into the backfield. Very helpful there. And Heimendinger, interesting guy, not necessarily all that great. I have all tap abilities of all friendly legends, units, and gear. And so he can be pretty good in the sense of that you might be able to create 2 units. That's pretty awesome. He also wouldn't be necessarily too bad to play on turn 1, maybe turn 2 as well. But again, it can be a little bit slow in the sense of trying to get things moving, but still can be really good. You go ahead and tap him and you can get 2 units out every time. Again, it's a little bit of a juggle, but out of everything that is going to be in your starting deck, I mean, you could go ahead and take out Wraith of Echoes. Might be another option. Taking out a Noxian Drummer, just 1 in this case. Eager Apprentice you could take out as well. I would switch Eager Apprentice out for Yordles if you get those. But again, you're only going to be getting 28 cards, and so use your discretion. Definitely keep in Stupefy, Student, Hidden Blade, Smokescreen, Soaring Scout, Call of the Week. Consult of the Past is really good. Cruel Patron is really good. Jeweled Colossus and Grand Stratagem. That would be the guaranteed side. I would say definitely keep in. Really good stuff right there. Now, of course, for the battlefields as well, if you get Arena's Greatest, that can really make a difference because that'll give everyone at the start of the turn a point. Awesome. So it makes the game that much quicker. Also, Obelisk of Power. You want to use Obelisk of Power when you start, when you go first. That way you have 3. You play out a 2-might unit or a 2-cost unit. Then you go ahead and use your Legend ability. And then you create another token. So really helpful stuff there. And Viktor can be a very good deck. But again, you need to figure out how to kind of take care of things at your end game. Next, we are looking at Lee Sin, the Blind Monk. Now, of course, you can go ahead and buff a unit. Really dang good. Now, of course, keep in mind, buffs are a lot different than counters from Magic the Gathering. You are not going to be able to stack as many buffs as you want on a unit. Just not going to happen. Not allowed. Now, of course, there is a Lee Sin that does allow you to do so. The one that they give you is not it. And so a little sucky there, but that's how it is. The Lee Sin, though, is still really good. You can play him out accelerated if you want, and he is so broken because, man, your buffed units are already going to be getting 1 because they get +1 might when they are buffed. Lee Sin takes all of those buffed units and then adds 2 more to that for a total of 3. that is extremely difficult for anyone who's playing a structure deck, especially on trying to get over. So you got to be a little careful about that. And if you see Lee Sin, take him out as soon as possible. You do have to watch out for Defies. Yes, Defies are not in this deck, but it is a very common card, and it is very possible that they are going to be pulling them. It's kind of listed here as things you should add. With that being said, though, you got to be very careful about how you go about this because you don't necessarily have a whole ton of card draw. That's going to be the hard part. Your card draw is basically going to be Discipline, and I think that is it. Yeah, I think that's it. And so, yeah, that's going to be very difficult on you to try to continue to build up your hand, but you are able to move so fast. Stalwart Poro is going to be something that you really want to play on turn 1. Pit Rookie, or Pookie, for those of you who don't know, don't necessarily love that name, but everyone's going to call it Pookie, or at least most people. That's not going to be one that you want to play on turn 1. Nope, not even close. Mask of Foresight is going to be decent within reason. I say decent within reason because basically when you attack or defend alone, it adds +1. There's going to be multiple circumstances, though, where that's not going to be the case. For example, when you keep the Cub in your deck right here, and you go ahead and you have Mask out onto the field, you play the Cub as a hidden card, flip it up, it adds +3 to your battle, and that can be a very big game changer. Well, now Mask of Foresight just doesn't work anymore. So it's okay. Discipline and Charm, though, are your bread and butter here. Discipline can be such a good card. You can play it, it adds +2 might, and then you get to draw a card. That's insane. Outside of that, too, Charm can be so good because someone can think like their Viktor, for example, is safe in their battlefield. No, it's not. You're going to this battlefield and we're fighting. And oh, by the way, you're already tapped out of your runes. There's nothing you can do. I'm just going to kill your Viktor. I'm just going to kill your Jinx. Whatever it might be, man, it can really suck. And so that's really awesome to be able to do that kind of stuff, that kind of movements as well. Challenge is also another great card to be able to combine, or to be able to mitigate the field and control it. This is why Lee Sin, I believe, is the most powerful structure deck in this format, at least, you know? We're only getting 3 decks. And so it's going to be really interesting to see then what we are able to do with all of this. It's going to be curious. But Challenge is really good at being able to pick 2 units. They deal their mites to each other. And most of the time, you're pretty much going to be picking a mite that you are going to, or a unit that you are going to be able to destroy. Even if you do want to end up trading, that's really good. Keep in mind, Challenge does not start an attack. So if you're playing Wielder of Water or something else that benefits off of an attack or defending or whatever it might be, it does not start an attack. They literally just deal their damage of mites to each other. Don't get screwed over by that kind of ruling because that can really suck. Wielder of Water, though, going on, is one of your best turn 2, turn 1 plays. Wielder of Water is able to go ahead and add 2 might to themselves when you attack or defend alone. Man, when you attack an early game with him and you're able to just all of a sudden have him be at a 4, and early game especially, people really struggle with having to take out those higher might units. That can be very difficult for people, and that can really secure you a lot of points early on. Now, of course, Mistfall is a really interesting one as well, because when you go ahead and buff a unit, you can go ahead and recycle one of your orange runes to be able to basically ready them. Really good. Again, you have to be so careful. Don't get trigger happy with your deck. If you happen to recycle too many runes, then you end up shooting yourself in the foot and you are going to beat yourself. It doesn't matter what your opponent does, how good or bad they are at the game. If you can't play cards, you can't win. And so that's going to be the biggest thing here. And I mean, Mistfall is going to be really good. It's a 3 cost. You're only going to get 1 though. And it is a pretty rare card. So you pretty much are only going to be seeing 1. First Mate is going to be really good too. Oh, Cub, you're always going to be wanting to play that as a hidden card. You don't necessarily want to play that straight out to the battlefield. It's just so much better as a hidden card. Again, though, that is recycling a rune. Be very careful about doing that. But the biggest thing about this deck is that you don't have, I mean, look at all the power costs. You have Challenge, you have Charm, you have, you know, maybe something like Mistfall or Cub and things of that nature. And that is really it. So there's not necessarily a whole lot of recycling. So you're getting those 2 runes a turn. You don't want to necessarily utilize them so that you can go ahead and get your big boys out later into the game. Now, Wizened Elder is one of the best cards in your deck, period. Go ahead and buff him. Oh, and he just gets another one, you know, essentially. He just goes ahead and adds +1 to himself as well. And again, he's already at 4. You play him on turn 2. You go ahead and buff him the next turn. He's at 6. These decks really struggle at trying to get over that 6 might. And that is what makes Lee Sin so good, is that he has a lot of units that are over that threshold, which is really great to be able to see. Now, Windclaw Shaman, Udyr, I mean, he's good. He has a lot of things that he can do, but he is a little bit expensive in that case. He is going to be very good in this format if you so choose. I did choose to take him out, though, in particular, but he is still a really good card in this format. Feel free to keep him in. With everything else, though, this is what you're going to be looking at adding in. Ungard, one of your best cards in this game right now, at least for this format. You are going to be able to add +2 if they are attacking or defending alone. That can really catch your opponent off guard, especially when they're so new at this game. You're not going to necessarily anticipate a lot of this. And you have 1 at the ready. Cool. Well, I'm just going to unguard my unit. It's going to get +2. I'm now 2 might over you, or 1 might over you, and there's not necessarily a whole lot that they can go ahead and respond with. Likewise, Defy is going to be really good as well, and something that you need to be mindful of. Now, keep in mind, it only counters 4 or less costs of spells. Units are not spells. That is a big difference from Magic the Gathering to this. Defy, though, can be very effective, but you cannot counter 2 power spells in this case. You can only do up to 1. Don't make that mistake. If someone happens to pull a Falling Star, they use it, you cannot defy it. And you'll just end up kind of screwing yourself a little bit anyway, and revealing that you also have a defy. It's a very common card. I would run 2, 3 of. Again, odds of you actually having 3, very slim. Discipline, if you happen to pull another one, add it in. You know, I mean, we're taking a look. And, oh, you already have 3. Disregard that. Hourglass. Again, a little bit rarer of a card, also a little bit expensive right now, but it is such a strong ability. Basically, if your unit would die, it can go ahead and go back to base, and the Hourglass is going to move instead. And so that's going to be pretty good in that case, really helpful there as well. Clockwork Keeper is going to help you with your card draw and also getting something out turn 2, or turn 1, I mean. You can go ahead and play him, and if you go ahead and recycle a Calm Rune, awesome. You are going to be able to draw a card. That's not necessarily a whole lot of a cost. Yes, again, be careful about how often you do recycle. You don't want to be shooting yourself in the foot. Find Your Center. Really good. It's a 3 cost unless your opponent has 5 or more might, or 5 or more points. Big difference. 5 or more points. Then it only costs 1. Then you can go ahead and draw 1 and channel a Rune Exhausted. So it helps you get a little bit of ramp, helps you go ahead and get some card draw. And if you're closer to the mid to late game, it costs 1. That's insane. King Cow Monk can really help get your units buffed up for free, essentially. It's already a 4 might unit. So you can go ahead and spend 4, recycle 1, get Monk out, buff up 2, really good. And then you can even use the Blind Monk to be able to buff up the Monk as well. The Monk cannot target itself, so that's something you got to keep in mind. If you so happen to pull it, Carnivorous Snapvine is basically challenge in a unit. Really good at being able to do that. You're going to be able to attack or basically deal damage to each other. Yeah, that's a 6 might unit. Now, of course, the Carnivorous Snapvine needs to be able to target something in a battlefield, but that's going to be a great way to be able to clear out the battlefield. Yes, it is a 2 power cost unit, but that is a really good ability for this current format in the sense of these structured decks. Something to really keep in mind. With that being said, battlefields that you are going to be hoping to pull. The Fighting Pit. The Fighting Pit is going to be really good. You are going to be potentially wanting to see Monastery of Hirana. Imagine I said that right. When you conquer here, you may spend a buff to draw one. Always spend that buff, always draw one. It is such a great card, and that is going to be probably the #1 battlefield that you're hoping to pull if you happen to pull it. So really helpful stuff right there. Now, of course, with all of that, that's going to be a little bit difficult, but what cards do you take out? Well, you very well could take out the Cub. That wouldn't necessarily be anything to write home about. It can be nice playing it as a hidden card, but if you need to make room, first and foremost, do that. Windclaw Shaman, you know, when you play me, you may spend a buff to buff me and ready me. He can move in and be out of 4 might. That's not necessarily great, though. You know, you could go ahead and take him out. Stormclaw and the 3 other 6 might or more units outside, of course, Lee Sin, because he's already going to be outside of your deck. You're going to want to go ahead and maybe remove one of each in this case in order to make room. I wouldn't necessarily worry about taking all of them out, but if you have Mountain Drake in your hand at the beginning of turn 1, that is going to be slowing you down so fast. Whereas if you go ahead and had, you know, maybe another card that you ended up drafting, something you specifically wanted to put in, it can really make a big difference there. I mean, again, Lee Sin's deck is just so good. It is the best one here. But if you want to take out one of the Bully, one of the Ursine, and one of the Mountain Drake, feel free to. Also, you could take out the Udyr as well, though he is pretty good, and your opponent is going to be struggling with these higher might units. So again, that caveat, if you really want to put a card in, you've already taken out what I've suggested. Udyr would be kind of the final outlier if you really needed to make room, if not the Mountain Drake. Again, though, the Mountain Drake is going to be so difficult for people to take care of, unless, of course, Viktor has like a Call of the Week, or is, potentially even like a Hidden Blade. That's going to be the big removal there. But even something like Mountain Drake can really devastate your opponent, even if they do happen to play Grand Stratagem. Now, keep in mind, this is from my last video, guys. One person in particular did not like that I put Jinx here. I thought I was funny. I still think I am. With that being said, though, the other ones are still normal. So you're welcome. I just didn't want to remake this slide. With that being said, Jinx is just such a great legend here in the fact that you can go ahead and when you get down to 1 or 2 cards, you draw, or 1 card or less, you draw 2 cards. Really good right there. Big difference maker on all of that. So you are wanting to get out as many cards as you can. And this is actually a pretty good structure deck, all in all. Definitely not up to the power of Lee Sin, but still really good. Now, Jinx is going to be really good as well, with her being able to come in and just immediately be accelerated if need be. But then again, that is going to be 2 that you have to recycle, so be careful there. Have the Assault 2, which is +2 while you are the attacker, and when you play me, discard 2. And there's a lot of really good utilizations that will get activated when you go ahead and play her in. So really great stuff right there. The 4 might is a little bit scary, but if you go ahead and play her on turn 3 or turn 2, it can be really good. If you do really need to get some discards going, it can be a very big game changer. Next, of course, is going to be Gust. I mean, this is going to be something that can really shut down the Viktor decks. Not necessarily the Lee Sin, but it can make a big difference, at least in the early game, so that you can get more points early on as they try to take back these battlefields. You know, so that'll be a very big difference maker as well. Get Excited is a very interesting card because you can go ahead and discard a card and you are going to be dealing that damage to a unit in this case. So really good. But again, the discarding can sometimes be a little lackluster. The Get Excited, not necessarily a great card. Now, Scrap Heap is really good in this case because basically you're just going to be able to, you know, when he is played, discarded, or killed, draw 1. So go ahead and just discard him. You don't necessarily need to play it. You're just going to go ahead and discard him, draw 1 immediately. Really good at just thinning your deck, which can give you such a big advantage in this current format. Next, of course, one thing that's going to be really good is Traveling Merchant. The big reason why I'm saying that is because the more cards that you go ahead and get into your discard, the better Vi is going to be at the end of the game. Vi is basically going to be one of your bigger win cons here, which is going to be very helpful to you because you can go ahead and activate her ability as many times as you want during your turn only, not during your opponent's turn. And you take as many cards as you want from your trash, put them into the bottom of the deck, and she gets +1 might for each card done this way. Really good. Being able to go ahead and hold Fight or Flight is such a good card. Next, Void Seeker is going to just be really good again at holding, though sometimes you are going to be struggling on having a lot of runes left over. Again, Flame Chompers is going to be so good. If you discard him, you just recycle a red to go ahead and get a 3 might unit out, essentially, you know, just for 1 power. So good. Raging Soul, really good. Fading Memories, that's going to be your power check against Lee Sin. They won't be able to go ahead and score if you target something in a battlefield, or if you could see like their Mountain Drake or something like that, you can target it with Fading Memories. It will be destroyed before the scoring step. So really good stuff right there. Again, Blinding Scorcher or Blazing Scorcher, sorry. Able to be accelerated. If not, it is still a good 5-cost 5 might unit that can just really help get control of the game. And then everything else is But Sunderer at the very end right here is such a good card. Again, going hand in hand with everything that you're discarding. Love that they actually included this card, because if you just go ahead and you can basically get him out for 1 power. You just have to recycle a rune. As soon as you have 10 cards in your discard, he costs 1 recycled. That's it. So he can be really good. Now, with that being said, Zon Warrens is going to be the one that you want to play first in game 1 at least, because that is going to be your bread and butter on getting things discarded so that you can go ahead and try to get out Sunderer or Vi to be able to win this game. Targon's Peak is going to be a little helpful, sure, but not necessarily essential. I would play that maybe game 3. And then also Reaver's Row is extremely good, because this is the big thing. When both are clashing, you know, say you're defending, they send their unit into base, Reaver's Row activates first. Your opponent will then get the choice. Do I back out as the defender, or do we stay here and fight? If they decide to stay here and fight, then the battle goes out normally. There's going to be probably some confusion with this card of once things start getting activated and things like, I'll play my discipline at +2. Oh, well, I'll do this instead and do this. Oh, actually, I'm just going to pull out. That's not how this game works. Your pullout game's not that strong. With that, though, that's going to be the big thing. And that's going to be something very beneficial to you as well, is going to be the fact of the matter is that you can go ahead and bluff to your opponent like you have something to go ahead and make a difference. You could go ahead, if you were playing Viktor, and attack into a base and bluff it as though making them think that you might have a smoke screen. In this case, and they'll back out and you'll get a point, even though you have the lower might unit that is attacking in. Likewise, you can do the same thing with Jinx. Very interesting on being able to get things moving. Love, love, love this deck. First and foremost, you're going to want stacked deck. Really good at being able to find what you need. It is a 1 cost. You go ahead and recycle 2 of the cards. You put 1 into your hand. Man, that is so good. If you get multiple of those, pull them, though it is rare. Hextech Ray is going to be really good as well. If you happen to go ahead and get out one of your 2 might units, Traveling Merchant, Vi if you get them in your opening hand, anything else, for example, that is a 2 might unit, you go ahead and you can save it. And then when your opponent attacks them with their 2 might unit, you go ahead and just Hextech Ray it, and they don't get a point. And then you're going to score in the upkeep. You're already ahead. Really good card. Flash can also be really good as well, because if they're suddenly able to like play a Lee Sin accelerated and you see, oh gosh, like they are going to destroy me. Well, Flash can go ahead then and just pull up to 2 units back to base. And it's like, well, I can go ahead and beat them on the clapback there in this case. So just a really, really good card. It's a common as well. Same with Fight or Flight. Again, add more of those if you get them. It will help you be able to hold. Most of the time at your locals, people are going to be potentially only attacking in with 1 unit at a time. They might not go ahead. They want to go for both battlefields in a turn. And when you only have 2 units, well, that's what you do. That's where this is very fun, because you can then go ahead and Fight or Flight and just send it right back to base. It's tapped and can no longer do anything anymore. So good on being able to do that. Now, with that as well, Pouty Poro, really good as well. Another 2-drop in case you need it. And then it also has Deflect, so if it is ever targeted, the opponent has to go ahead and recycle something. Now, Ride the Wind is going to be really interesting as well, mainly due to the fact that you are going to be able to win with the Vi combo. What I necessarily mean by that is you need 4 to win the game. That's it. And when you are at 6 points, you go ahead and you play Vi out. You activate her ability and recycle pretty much your entire deck within reason. There's certain circumstances where you wouldn't do all of them, but at this point in the game, yes, recycle every single last one. Add, let's just say 12 might in that case. Vi becomes a 15. You'll Ride the Wind. Move a friendly unit and ready it. You ready it after you move it. That is insane. And so Vi comes in, she moves into the first battlefield, readies, you deal 15 damage. Nothing they can do about it. Again, watch out. They might have like Hidden Blade or something like that, potentially. But man, if you see them with a hidden card in the first battlefield, but not in the other battlefield, go for the other battlefield first. In that case, because if they play a Hidden Blade from the other battlefield, it can only target what is in that specific battlefield. That's a big difference. Something to know for you guys as well. Ride the Wind is going to be really good. Then you go into the one that doesn't have the hidden card in it, and then you have it readied, and you move into the other battlefield. You're able to go from 6 to 8 and immediately win the game. If you happen to pull another Vi, add it. Again, that is your win con. Ride the Wind and Vi. That's kind of the sad part here. There's not necessarily a win con in this game, or in this deck. You're good, but you're not great. You could struggle at the late game, and especially if you play Vi out and you're not necessarily able to get a whole lot going, and you have to wait a whole turn for her to be able to even be readied, that can lose you the game. That's a big deal. Now, with that being said, of course, we have Sneaky Deckhand. Common card, really good. You can go ahead and, for example, on turn 1, you'll play your 2 cost unit out into the base. Turn 2, you move it into the first battlefield. Get that point. Awesome. You take Sneaky Deckhand, you play it into the open battlefield, and you immediately get 2 points. Really good right there. And then on top of that, odds are your opponent is only ever going to be able to maybe take 1 battlefield. If you also happen to ride do Fight or Flight as a hidden card as well, I mean, you're scoring a lot more points here in that case. And so you got to be very careful about how you go about that, but really good stuff. Void Seeker, you get 2. If you get 1 more at it, it can be really good. But Hextech Ray is almost going to be a little bit better in this case, especially on controlling the board state. And Noxus Hopeful, again, another common. If you go ahead and play out like a really cheap 2 might unit, or if you happen to play like a Flame Chompers after discarding something, then you can go ahead and play Noxus Hopeful for 2 instead of 4, and you just got a 4 might unit out for 2. It is such a good card. Now, of course, with that, you are going to be wanting to take out things like Get Excited, Cemetery Assistant, Undercover Agent, and Magma Worm. Magma Worm is a really good card, but it's at 8. Look at how much you have to recycle. I mean, you have Void Seeker, Vi, Get Excited, Jinx potentially for 2, Blazing Scorcher for 1. There are so many things in here. If you hide a card, you have to recycle 1. It is going to be so difficult for you to be able to get up to that 8 runes to be able to go ahead and use its ability. It's really good because it's got 8 might, and other friendly units enter readied. That's awesome. But man, it is going to be so hard for you to be able to get up to that 8 might, and that can really slow down your gameplay. And so that's going to be something very careful, especially as you try to get some things moving in. Scrap Heap is so good. That would be a very last ditch thing that I would ditch in this case. Brazen Buccaneer I would also take out as a final option as well. But everything else is actually pretty good in this case. And so at a last ditch effort, I would do Scrap Heap. He's just such a good card. But again, if you need to make room for 3 more cards, that's what I would do. There's a lot of really good stuff here. And this really just helps tighten and theme your deck a little bit better for good interaction here. With that being said, of course, there is Blazing Scorcher and all this stuff. These are all the cards, of course, on Piltover Archive. Really great website. Cleave is something that you could definitely be going for with Jinx as well. It's a common card. Really good. Disintegrate's okay. Now, there are a lot of cards that you could end up pulling. You could pull a Falling Star, a Draven, a Darius, and whatnot. Really good. That's why we didn't necessarily go over it. If you pull a Darius or a Draven, add them to your deck for anything that's red in this case, which is only Jinx. Really good stuff. But again, I didn't include it because it's not necessarily that good, or not necessarily common for you to pull it. Same with Vayne, Kaisa, really great stuff. Morvise, Immortal Phoenix, if you pull it, use it just because it's a good card, you know. And every set kind of has that stuff. If you pull a Blitzcrank, same thing. Tasty Faithfolk, use it if you get it. Yes, 100%. You can also buff, or if you get the Lee Sin, definitely use that. Sona's going to be really good as well. White Flame Protector, same thing, and whatnot. But again, don't get your hopes up. Singularity could be a good option as well, especially for that board state, taking out 2 units with 6. Dr. Mundo is going to be really good as well if you happen to pull him. Might be something viable to stick into Viktor potentially, depending on how many cards that go through. But again, that 8-2, wouldn't necessarily recommend it. Ari, though, could be really good in your Viktor deck because she adds -2 whenever she attacks or defends to an enemy unit, not to all, just to a. Really good. Unchecked Power, again, is going to be something to really help board wipe. That is going to be very powerful in this current format, so something to certainly keep in mind with that. Outside of that, though, too, Primal Strength is going to be a really good card that you can pull. If you pull another Lee Sin, use it. Sabotage is going to be really good in your matchups as well. Just even being able to know your entire opponent's hand is such a good ability. But even before that, you're going to be able to go ahead and reveal a non-unit card from it and recycle that card. Dazzling Aurora, ignore. Warwick, ignore. Volibear, really good card. Don't put it in. Dead Bloom Predator, put it in. If you happen to pull it, put it in. Awesome. Same with Misfortune. She can be really good in this format as well because whenever she moves, she goes ahead and can ready another unit. So you can go ahead and play Misfortune. The following turn, you can move Misfortune somewhere. After you've played another big unit, for example, it comes in readied, and then you can move it into the other battlefield, and it's just something that the opponent has a hard time preparing for. If you happen to pull set, add it into Lee Sin. And that's going to be the big thing there. Same with Mind Splitter would be a very good option here. Soul Gorger, pretty decent option, but, you know, very eye-catching, but don't add it into your deck. It's not that good. Teemo could be a decent one, but again, this Jinx is really good. If you happen to pull it, put it in. When you discard 1 or more cards, ready me and give me +1 this turn. So you can literally go ahead, play a card to discard something, and then ready Jinx as soon as you have played her, and then she is at 6. You take a battlefield, you play another card that discards a card. She readies, she gets +1. You move her back to base. She lives to fight another day. Really good stuff. And then outside of that, in this final conundrum, of course, don't really worry about these ones. Maybe Harness Dragon. We saw that in the structure deck. Karma would be really good in the sense of keeping your deck as Viktor very vision heavy, because of what her ability is. Again, very rare, but if you're leaning in more towards the vision abilities, awesome. Now, Machine Evangel, again, pretty rare, but when when it dies, you play 3 recruits. Really good. Baited Hook might be good, but not necessarily. That's the hard part. And then if you happen to pull this Viktor. Outside of that, there isn't necessarily a whole lot. If you happen to pull the signature Death Rocket and things of that nature, good on you. But again, that's going to be just kind of so rare that it's not going to necessarily happen. But hopefully there is a lot of information here. I hope that it's not necessarily overwhelming, but luckily you should be able to pick the decks before you actually go to the store to play this event, so you know what you're getting into. With that being said, still read through the cards before you go ahead and go to the store event. That can be something that really helps you out. Not only that, But, you know, definitely keep in mind, maybe even take notes. You are allowed to even take notes at the event itself. At least competitively, you are able to take notes. And you could potentially write down everything that you would need to be looking for and stuff. That way you don't have to call back to this video time and time again while you're trying to draft at the same time under a time crunch. So very helpful on being able to do all of that. So it'll be curious to see how it all goes, but I really hope that you guys have a great launch here. There's going to be a lot of people that don't necessarily know what to expect with their decks, what cards to take out and things of that nature. If you have friends and family that might be going to you to these events, feel free to share this video with them. It can really help them out. It'll be interesting to see how everything ends up going, and especially now that this game is going to be out. That is so exciting. And it'll be fun to see how the competitive scene begins to develop, especially in the local gaming community. Can't wait to see how that all goes. But with that being said, guys, that is going to be it for now. Are you going to the release events here for Riftbound come Friday and Saturday? Or are you going to more so just kind of sit back, wait, and see? If you're going, which deck are you going to be taking? Let me know down in the comments below. And until next time, guys, have a good one.